Okay, welcome back to my channel, Made Between the Pages. My name is Taylor, and today we're going to be doing a full review for The Black Coast by Mike Brooks. Now, I usually don't do full reviews on my channel. I tend to save these for books that really blow me away and books that I feel don't have enough attention on them already. If it's something that has a lot of reviews out there already, I'm always hesitant as to whether I have something to add to the conversation. But in the case of this book, I don't see anyone talking about it, and in my opinion, that is a crime. Also, for this video, I decided to film in a different location. I haven't filmed outside since I did a 200 subscriber Q&A over a year ago now. So I'm out on my balcony with the newly bloomed orchids behind me. These ones in the corner are also orchids, and we've got some really nice buds showing up. So I'm really excited for those to bloom. So I'll definitely be filming out here when I have more flowers that are in bloom. But for now, this is what we're working with. This is part of a very small part of the garden we have on our balcony. There's plants everywhere out here. It's gorgeous today, and I just didn't want to miss the opportunity to film out here. So before it gets ridiculously hot and uncomfortable to film outside, you'll probably see me out here every once in a while. So enjoy the change in scenery. Now, back to this wonderful book. I'm sure you can tell from how I've talked about it in this short span of this video so far. I gave this book 5 stars. I loved it so much. This is the first book in a new epic high fantasy where we follow 4 different characters in a world that has really interesting political machinations, and there's the threat of war. The first character we follow is Damon, and he is an adopted son of a lord in a northern town on the coast of this nation, I guess, a nation that is very, European, medieval European based, so kind of your traditional setting for an epic fantasy. So his adoptive father is a very high-ranking warrior from this nation, but he is now living in this kind of bumfuck nowhere town up in the north on the coast. Then we follow a raider chief named Sana, who in the beginning of this book, it's not a spoiler, it's very much blatant in the beginning, but in the beginning of this book, she comes from overseas, from her homeland to where Damon lives. And her people are raiders, so over the years they have come to this coastal area and raided and pillaged and murdered people over the years. So there's a lot of hatred and mistrust between these two groups of people, but she, at the beginning of this book, brings her entire community over to this coastal town for once, not to raid, but to ask them to let her people settle because she is running from something in her hometown. Then we follow Tila, who is the sister of the God King, who is the leader of this European-esque nation. And he's the God King, so he's supposedly descended from gods. But he doesn't have a mind for politics or for doing what needs to be done. So she is the one that does what needs to be done. So she's very vicious and merciless, essentially, in keeping him on the throne. So we follow her as she goes to another nation, which we'll talk about in a minute, but she travels to this third nation that's in the book to carry out a mission. And finally, in this third nation, we follow a character named Jaya, who is a street rat, a thief, and she ends up stealing from the wrong target, and her story kind of takes off from there. So we follow all of these characters on their different journeys and as they connect with each other. So obviously Sana and Damon interact very quickly in this story because Sana is coming to where Damon lives. And a main theme going through this book is how to reconcile 2 completely different cultures or 2 completely different ways of thinking, because these 2 characters, Sana and Damon, have grown up in completely different worlds, and they have a language barrier. They have all the barriers you could possibly name, a history of violence and murder, and yet they both have the same goal in this situation, which is to not kill each other. And can they make that work? That part of this book was written beautifully. I really, really liked how Brooks took the time to look at all of the intricacies that would cause an issue in this situation, and how he handled them, I think, was beautifully done. Can you compromise with someone in order to breach a divide? And how far are you willing to compromise, right? Where do you draw the line? Those were beautifully explored here. And I think that he did a really good job of making it a balanced situation. It wasn't one group of people were the bigots. Both sides had problematic aspects to them and parts of their culture that clashed with the other. And it wasn't like a good versus bad. It was a different versus different. The other thing that the author really explores here is the third nation that I mentioned, where Jaya is from. It is a nation where gender neutrality is baked into the language. It's a part of their culture. So a person never uses a gendered pronoun until the person genders themselves with their own language. So there are different pronunciations, different accents that you use to establish your gender for someone else. So it can be high feminine, low feminine, high masculine, low masculine, or neutral. And until you know what the other person, is themselves by them using the correct inflection for themselves, you just go with the neutral. And I know Brooks is queer. I'm not sure what their orientation is, but I do think that this was a really unique way for a fantasy author to explore the idea of, if this idea of pronouns was baked into the culture and it wasn't like a change, it wasn't something new for people, what would that culture look like and how could it function? And like I said, it's baked into it. So there is no preachy aspect to this book if you're worried about that. There is no like shoving it in your face. It just is. And it was beautifully done. Then throw into the plot for all of this, all of the political machinations. We have a threat to the God King's throne in another individual who could possibly, claim lineage from the god themselves. So we have that kind of political aspect. We have, actual raiders who don't want to settle coming to attack the coast of this European-esque nation. So we have a lot of political machinations going on at the same time as all of these characters go on their journey. And on top of all of that, dragons. Motherfucking dragons. And it's not like, when books say there's warrior dragons and then you get a dragon for 2 pages. No. There are dragons in this book. They take a couple chapters to show up, but it gives me How to Train Your Dragon vibes. It's not like one species of dragon. There are multiple species that have multiple different, personalities, what they're used for. And it's amazing. It's so good, guys. I am obsessed with this book. The fight scenes are also fantastic. There aren't too many fight scenes in this book, but the ones that are there are written amazingly. I was on the edge of my seat. I was like, oh no, when I was reading. So the fight scenes are written so well and they're really engaging. So that aspect is also here. The one thing I will say is that the end of this book was a little bit too tied in a bow for my personal tastes, but that doesn't take away from the other 600 pages of joy that I got from reading this book. I know this is the first in a series. I don't know how many there are going to be, if it's going to be a trilogy, duology, quartet, I'm not sure. It does say on the back, look out for book 2 in the series, The Splinter King, so there's definitely a second one coming out, which I will absolutely read. But the thing that I'm most excited for in the second book is the development of the dragon lore, because it seems that we're promised some really good stuff there. And also the political machinations. Where they were left in this book, I need to know what happens next. I need to know. So I think that this is a fantastic book. If you haven't read it, I'm begging you to. I think more people need to be aware of it. This is a new release this year, so it hasn't had too much time to get out there, but I'm going to be one of those people pushing it. I think it's well worth your time. It's such a good read. I will be mentioning this briefly in my wrap-up, but you know, I'll just direct people to this video if you want to know more about it, because I could splurge about this book forever, but I want to keep away from spoilers in this video, and you know, if I splurge too much, I'm afraid I'm going to divulge some things. So if you like anything that I described in this video, I'm begging you, please pick up The Black Coast. I really hope it's a 5-star experience for you because it blew me away. That concludes my review of The Black Coast by Mike Brooks. Let me know in the comments down below if I convinced you to pick this up, if it's been on your radar for a while, if you've never heard of it before, or if some of the things that I mentioned don't seem up your alley. You know, I'd love to chat in the comments down below. But for now, I'm gonna head out. Jenny!